What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our ACC football channel.
How about those Hokies? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we love for the hardcore college football fan. That would be you. We got Paul Van Wagner on the line from ESPN Blacksburg. You can join him on his show, The Drive. Paul, you've been on before. We had a real good time. Thought I'd have you back to talk a little Virginia Tech football.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So we kind of alluded to it before we started to record in our conversation that I'll speak for myself personally. I kind of got the same vibe from you. These spring games they're dull and boring.
Right.
I actually am so starved for college football that I actually get excited. I forget, and I get excited when I see all these spring games are coming up and all these big teams are going to be playing. And I watch about 3 plays of the first one, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's not football.
No. It's, it was interesting because I've been here in Blacksburg. My tenure has been the exact same as Justin Fuentes. We both got here in January of 2016. And of course, that first spring game in April of 2016, everybody was really interested. They had 40,000 people in Lane Stadium for a spring game because you have this new revolutionary spread offense, and it's going to be wild and crazy and fun. And what we've seen is that as the years have progressed, the number of fans has kind of diminished and faded out a little bit, and just excuse me, it has become like most other spring games. The beauty of Hokie Nation, though, is that they still seem to show up. I think there was probably about 30,000 or so fans at the spring game this year, and not a bad showing, but definitely wasn't what it was in year one. That's for sure.
All right, Paul, we're not going to pin you down to just the spring game because some of it I think you can take as credible. There are certain matchups, there are certain players, there are certain situations that you can take as credible. And for me, I'll take one example would be a wide receiver defensive back matchup, one-on-one. It's just a one-on-one situation, and who won the battle? Did the wide receiver gain separation? Did he high point the football, outfight the defender? Did the defender cover and break up the pass? It's a duel. It's a one-on-one matchup like watching on a basketball court. But a lot of other things you can't take a whole lot of stock in. So basically, the spring game plus what you gathered from the 15 sessions beforehand out of camp, what are some of the things, we'll start with the offense, that strike you as being storylines that you'll take into August?
Well, I think the big one is who's going to run the ball for Virginia Tech. They have Deshaun McClease back. He jumped into the transfer portal for about 4 days and jumped back out and said he was staying at Virginia Tech. Guys like Jalen Holston, Terrius Wheatley, is Cole Beck going to emerge? What about Caleb Stewart? They have a couple of freshmen coming in this year that aren't on campus yet that are pretty high-end running backs. Are they going to contribute? That's the big one, I think. The wide receiving crew is solid. There are probably, I'm going to say 12 guys that would contribute on most D1 football teams in the nation. They're deep at wide receiver. But that running back position has a lot of question marks in there, and you got to run the ball to win football games, and the Hokies have struggled to do that under Justin Fuentes. So I think that's a big one for Virginia Tech.
And, of course, you got the quarterback situation that in the absence of Josh Jackson, where does that stand?
It feels like it's Ryan Willis's job, right? Like, he's a fifth-year senior. He won some games for Virginia Tech. I think Quincy Patterson and Hendon Hooker are the heir apparents. They both have some, let's call them, deficiencies in their games right now, but you're talking about a 19-year-old redshirt freshman and a 20-year-old redshirt sophomore. They're going to have deficiencies in their games. Willis doesn't necessarily always make the best decisions, but it's almost kind of that Brett Favre gunslinger mentality, right? Like, I can fit the ball in this window, and I'm going to try to do it, and if it gets intercepted, okay, so be it. If it doesn't, then it's going to be a hell of a play. That doesn't usually fly with Justin Fuente. However, he seems to be giving Willis a little bit more rope, so to speak. And I think a lot of that is because Patterson and Hooker have those deficiencies, and Fuente realizes they're not ready to play right now.
Yeah, Ryan Willis, of course, the transfer from Kansas on the field for most of last season because of the injury to Josh Jackson. 24 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 58.5% completion percentage, a little over 2,700 yards through the air. Not bad numbers. So the last time we saw him on the field was in the bowl game against Cincinnati. They were salting away something like a 3 or 4 point lead, about to make it double digits. They had a turnover going in for what could have clinched the game with about 4 minutes left. And then after Cincinnati scored to take the lead, he led them down the field until he threw a pick to end the game. So there were the ups and downs for a quarterback that you would assume is not necessarily one of the better quarterbacks in the nation, but is serviceable and, again, trying to hold off the competition to maintain his job. Anyone else out there, Paul, when you look at both sides of the football that maybe excites you that we may not know about yet as a general fan base of college football, but a guy or two that you would like to see break out?
I'll give you a position group, and it's the Virginia Tech linebackers. Last year, this was a group of kids that were just that. They were kids. Dax Hollifield played as a true freshman. He's now a sophomore. Rashard Ashby played as a true sophomore. He's now a junior. And then you look at guys like Dylan Rivers, again, playing as a true sophomore, now a junior. Keyshawn Artis got a lot of playing time as a true freshman, now a sophomore. So this linebacking crew, and this seems to be the trend at Virginia Tech, right? Like, go back 2 years and Andrew Matuapawaka is a senior and having just a stellar campaign. 4 years prior to that, Andrew Matuapawaka was the freshman kid that kept missing tackles and missing assignments. So this linebacking crew, as they continue to grow and develop, they're going to be one of the best in the nation. They're really talented.
Got Paul Van Wagner on the line. You can join him on The Drive, ESPN Blacksburg. He's joined us a few times to talk Virginia Tech football. Paul, you take the calls. You talk to the fans, both in person and over the lines, of course. Are people excited about the 2019 season? Where do they think this football program stands compared to where they believe it should be? And I ask this just noticing that I've got my Virginia Tech colors on.
Like it. I like it. I think the fans are optimistic, and they should be. The schedule, I think we talked about this last time I was on, Mark. The schedule is not overly exciting as far as the level of competition. In fact, ESPN Stats and Info sent me something yesterday that said Virginia Tech has the weakest strength of schedule in the nation for Power 5 schools, and they have a 95% chance to be bowl eligible. Well, when you're playing Old Dominion, Furman, Rhode Island, North Carolina, Duke, Wake Forest, and Virginia, it's not a strong schedule. So I think fans are optimistic, but I don't think they're excited about this upcoming schedule.
Yeah, bowl eligibility, the formula is basically lose to Notre Dame, win the other 3 non-conference games, even though we don't need to remind Virginia Tech fans about Old Dominion last year. But anyway, that lightning strikes every 10 or 15 years. James Madison, whenever that was, about 15 years ago, I believe. But in conference, then that would be a 3-5 record in conference. It equals 6-6.
Yep. JMU fans still taunt Virginia Tech fans about that victory 15
as well they
years.
should.
Yeah,
they should. That's a once-in-a-lifetime deal. Or so we thought. Once in a lifetime for James Madison. Unfortunately for Hokie fans, not a once-in-a-lifetime deal, because then they trip up again inexplicably by 2 touchdowns against an ODU team that was like a 29-point underdog.
Yeah. Well, it happens, right?
It happens. It happens. Appalachian State, Michigan, we could go down the lane with that. Pardon the pun, Lane Stadium. We could go down the lane with that. All right, Paul, we appreciate you stopping by. And again, for anyone outside of the listening area, are they able to pick you up on an app or anything like that online?
Absolutely. ESPNBlacksburg.com. If you go to your Google Play Store or your iTunes Store, you can search for ESPN Blacksburg. We have an app. We've had over 26,000 people download the app since we launched it last July, I believe it was. So been hugely successful. I encourage people to check out the app and tune in from 4 to 6 Monday through Friday.
Thank you for watching this video. If you are an ACC football fan, please subscribe to the channel. Leave us your thoughts down in the comments below. And for the latest in ACC football, keep it right here.